Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking what's next. They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn, on the mic.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN, 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, as well as Facebook, YouTube, and we are up every Thursday after the show ends on Spotify. So welcome back to the second hour. Happy last show of 2024.
Happy last show. I think what we were thinking about doing is just flipping through our notebook, opening it to a page, kind of reminiscing about the things that we've talked about over the last year, and maybe how are we going to leave it in 2024, or is it something that we might bring into 2025?
Yes.
And so we just thought we might just do a Lisa and Robyn recap.
Okay. So I was thinking, I've lost my notebook, so we're going to use your notebook as the guide. So you start them.
Oh, but you have such a good... All right, so I'm just going to open a page.
And I'm going to go through some of our guests while you're doing that, since my notebook's
so the first thing that my eyes landed on, people who are curious are less furious. Curiosity kills judgment.
I think 100%. That is true.
I mean, we even had, curious cats in our,
Yes. Our byline.
Yes, our byline. And I think it is good. I love being curious.
Well, when we were thinking about judgment, specifically, I would never insert this here. What you would never do. I would never bungee jump. If I meet someone who bungee jumps and I'm judgmental of them, you're an idiot.
Right.
You're going to just crash your head or whatever.
Right.
Instead, I can come with a piece of curiosity that says, why do you do that? What does it feel like?
Yes.
If I come with a piece of curiosity, I can learn something.
Yes.
And there, by default, be less judgmental. Or I can still have a judgment about what the answers are. But if I come from a position of curiosity, maybe I can learn something.
Right.
Maybe I'll never still do it myself, but...
Well, I mean, we're humans. We run everything through our filter. And just being curious, it asks you to maybe just open the holes of your filter just a little more to allow something else to come in. And to me, I can be judgmental. I can be very judgmental because I am very strongly opinionated in my argument of everybody should be curious. Everybody should be childlike. Mm-hmm. And I could be very judgmental of it. And, why aren't you curious? Because my first things are, when you're not curious, you're grumpy. You're set in your ways. You're so, I don't know if linear thinking is the right word. If you're just so, why not be curious? Why wouldn't you want to explore?
So it's really funny. We did, at the very beginning of the year, we did the Jordan Peterson personality test. And one of the markers of your personality is how open to new experience you are.
Oh, yeah.
And you and I tested unbelievably high.
Yes.
I'm literally, so the way the test says, you'll get a number score. And it would say if there's 100 people in the room, you would be more open than. My number was 96 or 97.
Oh, we had this. I don't know if it's in this notebook.
It may or may not be. I don't know if you saved, because it comes with a whole description.
Oh, it's on paper.
It's on paper.
It's gotta be
but you and I test unbelievably high. We score unbelievably high for openness to new experience, which I think there are people who are not adventurous. If you say, oh, hey, do you want to try a new ski mountain? The answer is no. They want to go to the 3 ski mountains they've skied on before. They're not open to new experience, but it doesn't make them, it is part of their personality trait for if they're open to new things. And there are people who score, 7 to openness.
But there's always room to grow.
There's always room
There's
to
always
grow.
room to grow. So even if it's not,
But you and I are getting abducted in the van.
Yes,
like,
that's
when
true.
you give us instructions, it's, hey, don't get in the car with any strangers. Even as a little kid.
I would like to take you shopping for the day. Okay.
Okay, here I come. Scoot over. Scoot over. I'm coming in. Do you have a puppy in there?
Can we stop for fries?
Can we go for the bookstore? Can we stop at the bookstore? Are we going to go to the boutique? The two of us are getting in a
Can
real
we go to
van.
the Burlington Mall?
We're getting real quick. We're going in the van.
And our kidnapper's like, hey, wait.
And our kidnappers give us back. They're really expensive. They
I'm
never
driving
stop
the
talking.
van, and I'm going to show, this is how it's going down. I'm the boss of this.
I'm kidnapping you. I'm kidnapping you.
You're like, wait, are we?
Let's give these two back.
Yes. So, next thing I come up, shame is something that you put on and wear.
Mm-hmm.
Shame is something. So and guilt is something that you feel about what you've done or you didn't do. Those are adjectives that we choose to carry. So we're talking about letting go, or we're talking about
Shame is such a auto response one.
yes. Well, I mean, our generation. I feel like our generation, we were raised on shame.
And guilt.
Yes, guilt and shame.
Guilt and shame.
Especially in the Bible Belt. I don't know about mass.
Yeah. No, we had it because that was how they were keeping you in line.
Wait till your father comes home.
Yep.
My mom never really said that. I mean, she did say it a couple of times, but really, it was that it's fear. And it's fear, and it's not something. What were we talking about earlier? It might have been in the poem something, but what I wanted to say is, we said it when we were rollerblading, and I said there's a nature program that we were watching, and it says in nature there's no punishment. It's no good or bad.
Yes.
It's just a consequence.
Yep.
And so everything is a consequence. It's not like you're not
Being punished, this is a consequence for your action.
it's a consequence of being action. Sometimes there's good consequences and sometimes there's bad consequences. And now we're living in a place of like looking back at our childhood. We have a choice whether we're going to, like, sometimes we didn't have any control over some of the things, but we have control over it now. We can rewrite the narrative. And lay down guilt, lay down shame. Like, I was a kid, I didn't know any better. Or operating, I've tried very, very hard to not raise my children to get them to move in the direction that I want them to move in, which is mostly like for the betterment of yourself. You decide. I don't base your decision on me. Perfect example, Christmas Eve night. My daughter's in a spot where her and her boyfriend have been together for 8 years. And they were talking this year about how can we blend and spend more time with each other this holiday season and still meet all of our, the families and everything. And so we had just, she's like, what do you have planned for Christmas? And we have the whole Christmas Eve, the pajamas and, I didn't mention anything about the stories this year. So I'm making dinner. I'm getting dinner ready. And I said, are you going to see Logan? And she's like, we're not really sure. We're not sure how it's going to work out. And he invited me over. They do Christmas earlier because he has siblings that are a little bit younger. They are getting older. So their Christmas starts a little bit later than, 5 o'clock. And they're actually slowing down and, divvying it out. But I said, Kayla, we don't usually start until 10:30 or 11 or, whenever you guys wake up and get going. And she's like, well, I was thinking about going over and spending the Christmas Eve over there and just coming back in the morning. But she's like, I kind of want to wake up here in the morning. And I just said to her, and she's kind of like she's not asking, but she's kind of just fishing to see how I would feel. And I said, well, you should do whatever you want to do. And she just was kind of like contemplating it for a little bit. And I asked her, I said, a couple minutes later, and I said, so did you decide what you were going to do? And she's like, no. I'm like, why are you struggling? She's like, well, I don't know. And I finally said, if it were me, I said, do you want to know what I would do if it were me? If I were your age, I would be in a blink of an eye, I would go and be with my boyfriend. I would be like, hey, go do it. This is my memory too. We'll wait. It's not like we're going to start without you. Nothing changes. If that's, if I were 22 and I had if I had that relationship, absolutely I would be over there. She's like, okay, I'm going. But I wanted you to make your decision, and I don't feel like there's no guilt. There's no guilt.
You're also a person who's not easily offended. So I have family members who would take offense to you not wanting to spend time with them.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember it was Easter. Maybe it wasn't Easter. I think it was Easter. And my boyfriend had front row tickets. My boyfriend at the time had front row tickets on the floor for the Celtics game. And I wanted to go. And my family was like, you don't want to spend Easter with us. I said, of course I want to spend Easter with you, but I also want to go to the Celtics game. I have never had the opportunity to sit on the floor of the thing. And I did go. I was guilted and shamed for it because I wasn't doing the thing that everybody else was doing.
Well, the thing is, and I feel like you get tripped up into that whole guilt shame thing when when you are letting someone else, when you're not meeting someone else's expectations.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is, my expectation for my kids is I want you to go and live the best life that you can. I want you to have a better life than I had.
Yes.
And I'm not going to force it on you. But there were so many times in my life that you've been guilted and shamed into something. And I'm like, again, why not both? And the truth of the matter is, what I keep saying to the kids, it's not about the quantity. It's not about the amount of time. It's the quality of time. It's the quality of time. We still got in everything that we were going to do.
Right. And if they all of a sudden won a trip over Christmas to to go through Europe, you wouldn't be like, oh, you can't go on this trip that you went through Europe because we have Christmas that day. Like you don't have that in your vocabulary. You don't have that in your thought processes. But there are people who, and again, maybe it's not openness, maybe it's openness to experience.
Yeah.
They want the ritual and the routine to be as it always is.
Yes.
And they're not open to the new experience of having a holiday a different way.
Yes.
So maybe it's just how different people come to.
But then in asking, like, I
do think she probably wants the routine.
Yes.
But she's trying to figure out how to incorporate this new routine into the existing one.
They are both very much like me in the thing that traditions are very important to them. And like, they're 22. And so she'd already made her decision, and we had watched a Christmas movie, and we're kind of like, I had a couple little things to do, wrapping. I had stocking stuff to wrap, and Chris is like, we do this every year. I save wrapping the stocking stuff until the very last minute. He's like, I don't think you should wrap stocking stuff. And I'm like, no. I'm like, all right, you don't wrap. I'll wrap this one. I'll wrap hers. You do his. Because we were like, he's like, I'll help you finish it up.
Yeah,
finish it up. And it's not a ton of stuff, but he's like, why am I wrapping this? And I'm like, all right, well, let's just see how the morning goes. I'm like, you don't wrap yours. I'll wrap mine, and we'll see. He said something about Christmas morning, and Kayla was like, what? We're not going to wrap stuff in the stocking?
What?
And I just looked at
News
him.
bulletin.
And
why
he's
wasn't I consulted? I should have been consulted on this new change to the routine. What's happening?
Yes.
Did we vote on this? Was this?
Yes.
Is this a democracy? What's happening here?
So we had finished the Christmas movie, and it's like it's Christmas Eve, and I'm like, it's like 9:30 or somewhere 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's somewhere around there, and I'm like, all right, I got to go do some wrapping before I fall over and just go to sleep. And she's like, all right, was there anything else that you guys want to do? And I'm like, is there anything else you want to do?
Mm-hmm. And
she's like, no, I think I'm gonna head over. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wrap these and then I'm going to bed. And she's like, but wait, we didn't do our Christmas book. We didn't do our Christmas stories. And I'm like, all right. So I'm digging around to go get them. Chris took a picture of them and just thought, and we're laughing and stuff because they're both sitting on either side of me, and that's how they always would read since they were little. And I'm like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care if my kids are 50 and I can still read to them. I will read. I will read to them because that is just
So
it's
that's the
something
thing
that we've
about-
always shared.
I think there's something, for as much as I like the openness to experience, I don't like routines, but I like rituals
Yes.
and rhythms.
Yes.
Because routines to me is boredom
Yes.
because I'm so open to experience.
Yes.
So I love that you have this ritual.
Yeah.
Because you can also, if your kids are traveling, you could literally do FaceTime and have it
Yes.
but I think it's very grounding.
Yes.
It tethers you to a different time.
Yes.
I love that.
It's reliving, going back in nostalgia. And, so when the kids were little, actually up until they were until they left for college, I was definitely going to bed way before them earlier in the day. But we always would, right before their bed, they would brush their teeth. We'd read a story. We'd read our stories. And then we'd say, they would say their prayers. Literally all through high school, up until they left for college, they would come to my bed. I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. Or sometimes we would do it downstairs, but a lot of times they would come hang out on my bed and do prayers together out loud. And I remember I think I actually have the text message. She was like 12, 13, and she's like, are you still up? Can we call and do prayers together? So she wanted to do prayers together, like when she was over at her dad's house. She calls and said, because it is grounding for
it's
them.
tethering. Yeah, it tethers them to this, who they are.
Yes.
And I think if my parents prayed with me, I may have wanted to pray more.
Yeah.
But I probably didn't know how to do it. I was doing it from a Catholic school, shamed perspective.
Yeah.
I think the Catholic religion has a lot of guilt built into it.
Yes.
Personally,
Southern Baptist as well.
And so, I was just telling my spouse this the other day. I said something. So and so is going to be getting their first communion. And then I'm like, do you remember your first communion? He's like, I remember something of it. I said, I remember having to come up with sins so that I could, because you were supposed to confess all your sins before you. And I remember being like, lying. I'm a big liar. Like I remember, and I remember making up things because my little small self was like, okay, 10 commandments, haven't killed anyone. Haven't done this, not adultering at 6 or 7, however old we are.
Used to yeah.
I'm not stealing. I'm not like, wow, I don't know. I guess lying, but I wasn't a liar then. You know, like I was never the kid that lied.
Right.
So I was like, ooh, like when I went to
See, I grew up Southern Baptist.
My first communion to the priest is a lie. My first.
I am committing a sin.
I am committing a sin so that I can
Right
be
now.
absolved from my sins.
So I can eat that wafer.
So I can eat the wafer. I just thought that was hilarious. Because I'm like, what are we at 7? What are we talking
I remember
about?
my parents saying, no, you're too young for that. You're too young for communion. You're too young for communion. Like, you never really understood why. And I think, we view... In this day and age, we view children very differently now. Instead, we've given them more space. We
understand that they're human beings. They're just smaller. Our parents looked at us as like an other. It's like, hey, you came through this system, right? You remember that children are human beings.
Yes.
They're just shorter.
Well, but it's also like seen but not heard was always like the thing that you just be in the background, like whatever, like. You're telling your child your existence is nothing. Like, you irritate me. So, yes, you can be seen to say, hey, oh, yeah, I have kids and I have offspring. It's like a bragging point.
Or it's because we didn't use good birth control.
But
one or the other.
Shut up.
And get out of my face.
Shut up and stay in the background, and you don't need a snack.
You don't. But you know how kids can be crazy with the snacks.
Yes.
They had a point about the snacks.
Yes.
They were a little right about the snacks.
Just a little bit. But... Well, we grew up. I remember laying in bed at night, not understanding it, and so it was not the guilt and stuff. Was like we grew up in Southern Baptist, and you walk away Sunday mornings feeling like, oh my God, I had a bad thought. I don't like that girl, or I had a bad thought about this, or I had an impure thought, and I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
I always thought I was going to hell for everything. Like you walk out and you feel heavy, burdened by, like you snarled at somebody because you're like, ugh, oh my God, you're going to hell. That's how
Yeah.
I felt growing up. Like,
And see, I questioned. I just couldn't believe the one sense God loves you very much.
yes,
He loves you very much.
but you got to stay in this lane.
But you were born already a sinner.
Yes.
And if something happens before baptism, you're not going to heaven.
Right.
Everyone's going to pray for you.
Well, apparently, you
and then they
christened, if
told
you
me-
weren't christened, then
Yes,
that's probably.
yes. And then I would remember being very alarmed because I knew I would babysit and I
Right.
would know kids in my neighborhood who weren't baptized at all. I'm like,
Right.
all those babies are going to hell.
Right.
And then the nun said, animals don't go to heaven. And I am like, so my
Like,
cats aren't going to be in heaven with me?
Right.
The dog that I try to rescue off my front stairs isn't going to, like,
Right. Where do they go?
I'm like, why did he make all these animals if none of them are going to be with us? Like, this
Right.
just seems like a waste.
Right.
And then I just remember none of this making sense. As
Right.
from a storyteller, I think I've always been a writer and a reader. And I'm just like, I don't like the story very much. Your story's really incohesive. It's not congruent. You're not
This does
making any
not-
sense.
This does not fit my narrative.
This is a terrible narrative, actually. Who wrote this? Even from that very like 5th grade, I remember
But
just,
you know, all of that stuff is man-made. All of that stuff, the christening and, I mean, not baptism, but the way that you have to go into the baptism. Like, I don't think, the 12 disciples, when they're like baptizing everybody in the river, like saying like, well, wait, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this?
I
No,
like it as a ritual. I like
Yes.
it, the ritualistic element of it and what that, but coming to this
well, it's
now as an
symbolic.
adult.
It's symbolic. It's like making a physical
Manifestation of
proclamation
the
of,
spiritual.
hey, I'm claiming this, and I'm making a physical display show of I'm accepting Jesus into my life. It's not like we attach all that other stuff in. The Catholics, all that stuff. Like, I don't think Jesus and any of the 12 disciples, like, do your Hail Marys. Do your Hail Marys or you're not getting in the boat. You remember when all the
Yeah.
disciples and then we're going to cross the water? Like,
Yeah.
no. Even when some of them weren't listening, when he said, trust me, trust me, step out onto the water, you're going to walk on water and all that. Well, Peter can't go because, Peter had too much to drink tonight and he is not repenting. Like, that's us. That's
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
That's people.
Yeah.
Trying to like put it into something else.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most freeing things, and I feel actually even closer, closer in my spiritual journey than I ever have before, because I'm realizing those are things that we picked up that we didn't even know we were picking them up. We were just told and trained, and it was beaten into you and taking the ruler, the nun smacking your hand like, this is the way it should be. No, that's just somebody else's rules. We actually get to write our own rules.
Yeah.
I mean, stay in the lane, the 10 Commandments are pretty decent.
Right.
Those are pretty good rules, but
They pass any cultural norms. Don't
Right.
steal from other people. Don't
right.
lie to other people. Lying's not good.
Be
don't,
nice.
Yeah,
Don't kill your
Don't
neighbor.
kill. Don't
Like, that's a good blueprint. Like, he
Yes.
gave he gave Moses 10 of them, and like, okay, everything else is all, humans.
Well, I do think that crosses any cultural or societal boundary. Is how can you have a society if everyone's stealing from each other? How can you have a solid society
Yeah.
if everyone's adultering with everyone else's spouses? Like, it just becomes bedlam after a while. But I just thought it was so funny that I'm like, my first forte into my first communion was a lie.
You should have looked up him and like, dude, I had to lie to get here.
Well, I remember thinking, because they would like write them down. I'm like, there's going to be more than one. What could I be
Right.
And I remember thinking, like, I'm not allowed to do anything. My mother
Right.
doesn't I'm not allowed to do anything. I couldn't even lie about pretending I still believed in Santa because she caught on that,
Yeah.
and she's like, you don't believe. And I'm like, I found the gifts. I don't believe that's your handwriting on that. Like, no, I don't believe. And then she's like, why did you pretend? I'm like, you were pretending. I think I ruined Christmas
Yes,
for her
yes,
that way.
Yes.
Because I think I ruined that I knew what the presents were and everything else. I think it like really sucked the air right out of that room, as a little one. But I could have said that as my sin. I found all my Christmas presents and lied to my parents.
All of my family, we were laughing about it last night because I I put my rollerblades. So, I mean, surprise! I had just asked for lighted wheels for Christmas, and so Kayla had this order in which I would open my gifts. So I opened those first, and then a little bit later, she got me a rollerblading bag, a bag to carry my rollerblades in, and I'm like, oh my
So
god,
smart.
this is perfect. This is perfect because Lisa and I are taking these to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and she's smiling like, I mean, dude, she nailed it. I was
Yeah.
like, and they both did. So it was to both of them. And I was like, looking back at my gifts that I got for Christmas, I'm the only one that really got toys for Christmas.
50.
Yes. So my last present from them, she's like, you got to open this one last. You got to open this one last. So it was rollerblades. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, your kids see you. And I was just laughing about the other day in Chris, I was trying them on, and I'm like, he's like, are you going to skate in the house? And I'm like, no, you're going to piggyback me down to the road because I'm not taking them off again. And then so I was kind of roller skating on the carpet, and I'm like, I'm not going to scratch the wood. I'll be really gentle, but I just want to see how they feel on my feet. So I'm skating around in the living room. I'm skating around in the little bar area, and they're both laughing. And Chris is like, your mom. And it's something about being a kid. And he made a post about like he's like, when I kid, I'm like a big brother. When she kids, she really is like a kid.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that I'm 50 and my kids are buying me rollerblades.
Yeah.
And they're smiling at, like, I hope that's something that they remember. That's part of legacy being left behind. Like,
Well, I love that they know what to get you.
the spirit.
Not what do we have to get mom?
Right.
We got this.
Right. And I can be so happily entertained with toys. And he's like, you're just always a kid. And I'm like, I always want to be a kid. I don't ever want to be missing that joy. And so I think that's what Jordan Peterson was talking about. To me, that's how I interpret it. When he's like being childlike again. It's finding the joy, and it's willing to be silly and let the magic in. That's what I think.
All right. Next thing from
All
your
right.
book.
Let's see. Alcohol is dually reinforcing its activities. Our brain's reward system that mediates pleasure and reduces the brain's activity in a negative emotional stress states.
Okay, say that again.
I don't know. I just like.
I just picked up the notebook.
So we were talking about. Oh yes, I was like, okay, talking about sober October, the first 90 days, not feeling good. We're talking about the dependency of alcohol and how it literally numbs us out.
Oh, okay.
And it reduces the brain's activity in the negative emotional stress states. So it literally numbs you out.
So we were also talking, and slightly different, about how anger takes your brain offline.
Yes.
Because
That's a good one.
when we were talking about anger, one of the shows, we were talking about how literally when you're angry, your brain actually just uses, and because I don't have my notebook, I don't know if it's the frontal lobe, but it literally shunts all of your brain's activity to this one center, and it's why you don't think clearly when you're angry. So one of the things we were talking about is if you live in a state of constantly being angry, you actually don't use your whole full brain capacity.
Yes.
So when I think when we were talking about things like trying to stay away from politics, we were talking about it in the state that everyone seems to be angry about this disagreement. We used to have disagreements that, you'd go to a bar and you would argue with your neighbor, but you were still neighbors and you still had some kind of conversation. Now, because all of this anger floods in, it shuts off any other part of our brain, so we're not fully coherent.
Yes.
So that anger doesn't serve us in so many ways because we couldn't even properly problem solve because we're just seeing red.
Yes.
And I think something happened that someone called me on the phone and had accused me of something that was 100% inaccurate. And I remember saying to myself, get off the phone as soon as possible, because I started to see like red, like all of my brain activity.
Yes.
I could feel it where I am going to be in the zone I'm going to say something the wrong way. And I just said, I'm getting off the phone. And I actually had them talk to my attorney because of the way that whole scenario was going. I had been represented by an attorney in this thing. And I was like, just talk to my attorney because I can't even physically speak. You're hurling these insults and accusations at me that are so unfounded and untrue that I couldn't even have a conversation. And that's, I think, where it came up with that. But then we were talking about it with alcohol too. That alcohol alcohol crosses the brain-blood barrier. That's why you get drunk so quickly. It doesn't have to go through your system in any other way. It physically just, and you're literally marinating your brain in alcohol.
Kills brain cells,
and it does.
You can't get it back.
It does change impulse control. So you would do or say things that you normally wouldn't do or say when you're drinking.
Yes.
And I'm
we
sure
all
drugs
talked about. We talk
yeah.
about losing your filter. We lose our filter.
Mm-hmm.
This one's Ozempic. What are the one things that you liked? What was one of the conversations that we had this year that you liked?
So I was looking through my pictures of people we had with people.
How
Megan
long would
Marini?
you survive on Naked and Afraid?
Not very long. I wouldn't be naked.
No.
Stage 1. I'm not on the show. That's how I'm not surviving.
A fun fact: I've been wanting our den painted. So Chris took the day off, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had to do the radio today. Maybe I should go into work." And I'm like, "No, I'll be back later." It's like we have the house to ourselves, so it's like, "Oh my God." So he's like, I was asking, like, "What do you want to do today?" And I was kind of hinting, like, I want to run by the outlets when I'm done, and I'm like, so now, Kayla's plans change, so she and I are gonna go. But I was kind of hinting around, like, do you want to go? Do you want to be out? And so he's like, well, I don't really know. I don't really want to do shopping. I'm like, hey, we could paint the TV room today. And he's like, that's the last thing I want to do.
Right. If I'm not working, I don't want to do that.
But it's Thursday. We could get it out of the way. We don't even have to do it. And so I sweetened the deal. Like, we could do that naked. And he's like, I'll take the second, not the first. I'm like, well, the second doesn't happen unless the first happens. And we're just having this whole conversation. He's like, I'm not doing this with you. I'm like, okay. Okay.
There could be a benefit for you on that platform.
Right. I'm just saying, I'll sweeten the pot. I'll give you an incentive.
I really liked the conversation we had with Megan Marini about duality.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I really liked the discussion about how we can be both things at the same time.
Yes.
And I don't think we ever give ourselves credit when we get easily offended and when we take these one side. It's not allowing the fact that we hold multiple contradictory things inside of us.
That's where I think even that part that you came up with, that question of asking ourselves, what part of me is upset? Because we're not all upset, And it's like somebody had said it when we were, you're a miserable human being. And I have said, my response is, no, I'm only miserable with you. I'm not miserable over here,
right.
over here, over here, or over here. It's this spot. Like, we want to put a blanket statement on something, but we actually don't. If we actually spend more time compartmentalizing our misery or anything, put it where it's due.
Right. And then that helps you inform, okay, I really don't like this. I don't like me being miserable.
Right.
Maybe now that I'm informed that I'm only miserable in this thing, maybe I need to do that thing less.
Right. Well, it's so that's like the duality of it. Yes, you can be more than one, and people want to do a blanket statement over. We're so complex.
We are so complex. And I think it started with that whole political movement to make us angry at each other.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing...
What was that, COVID?
Right. Definitely COVID.
I mean, it started definitely before that.
But COVID really cemented that into place, it felt.
Yes.
Where, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year, too, and I want everyone... It's really important because once I figured it out, I was like, oh, my God, this makes so much more sense. I was talking to my spouse, and he was saying, but here's proof that what you thought, about somebody, that what you thought was wrong, here's the proof. And I said, think about these people have gone out on social media shaming people, calling people names, stopping going over Christmases or whatever.
Right.
Now they have to say they're wrong.
Right.
Think about you and
They're
I
not
in a
gonna say
fight.
they're
Think
wrong.
about if you and I in a fight. You
Right.
know I'm right.
Right.
And you won't give that to me.
Right.
And you love me. You
Right.
dedicate your life to me. You would take a bullet
Right.
for me.
Right.
I have no doubt that you would throw yourself in front of a train for me, right? To protect me. But you won't give me, I'm right. Right? Now,
Yes.
you have to do that on this public stage.
Right.
People aren't going to do that.
Right.
But that's what makes that part of us that won't admit that we're wrong, that is the part we hurt ourselves the most.
Yes.
Because we're holding on to something a
Yes.
part of us knows is wrong.
Yes.
And that's the duality piece. How can I be the person who didn't allow my grandparent over because they weren't wearing a mask
Right.
and be this person who loves my
Right.
if we understand, we hold the duality in us. We hold
Yes.
contradictory things in us because there's a million scenarios.
Right.
I'm a
And
person
in
who
this
thinks
area,
this
it's good for this, and it's not good for this. That is, I don't want to say balance, but
Yeah.
that is creating harmony. Is realizing that duality exists.
Yep.
In all of us, and having to I actually think it could help let go of some shame and guilt.
Yes. And it would help make the interactions easier if you're mad at your sibling because of X.
Yeah.
You know that's not the whole thing. That's not the whole picture. You may disagree about this one thing, but you agree about 98 other things.
Yes. Yes.
And that duality. So I
But
really liked
people
that
are
conversation
willing
with
to-
her.
Yeah, people are willing to throw friendships away, relationships away. I mean, over political views.
Right.
Like, you loved this person before, you loved this person
Before
6 months.
so-and-so got into office.
Yes. They were your best friends 6 months before the election started.
What I thought was great was they had Hillary Clinton's daughter, Chelsea, and Ivanka Trump,
Yeah.
Trump's daughter. And they were in an election together in 2016. Those two were at a party together having a very pleasant
Yes.
conversation. And there's people on the street arguing with people they don't even know.
Yes.
Like, do you see how picking up other people's swords for them
Yes.
and fighting other people's battles doesn't serve you?
That is true.
It doesn't serve you.
It doesn't serve you.
But that was what I really liked our conversation
Yes.
with her, and I really liked her talking about gamifying goals and solutions
Yes.
and stuff. So I thought I was looking through, because I don't have my notebook, so I'm looking
Yes.
through pictures.
Yeah. I think that gamifying.
I actually wrote that for 2025. Oh, do you have a word that you're going to use in 2025?
I think legacy is going to be mine.
Okay.
And I think so. Been talking about what it means to me, and to me, because Chris was like, "Well, that's not really what I would say is legacy," but I feel like that word is going to be my word. I don't think I
What do you
picked it.
mean by that word?
Well, so it's a trigger point. It's a trigger word for me it's an activation word for me, because to me, legacy, hearing legacy in my definition of, it's what I'm going to leave behind. So it's not about your wealth. It's the memory that you leave behind. And Chris was like, well, that's kind of like conceited. Like, you really want to control what people think about you after you're dead. He was like, that's kind of like, is that narcissistic? And I'm like, no, actually it's not. It makes me being aware, because I have a specific intent. I think maybe I'm saying it wrong.
So
I want my kids to be, when I'm not here, I want them to remember to rollerblade at 50, to ask for light up wheels, ask for those, see the magic, see the mystery, because I won't always be here to be your mom physically in the physical world. And so that is what activates me. I want them to, and we were talking at breakfast the other day. I said, it will be interesting to see what traditions and what things that you guys will carry into your relationships, into your families. Be exciting to see what you pick up and what you lay down. And just, I want to leave a good memory. So by leaving a good memory, to me, leaving a good memory is love, laughter, light, joy, peace, calm. It's all the good things. And so if I am leaving that memory, isn't that like leaving somebody? Like,
Yeah, that's living a good life and leaving a good life behind. Everyone that you've touched.
it's loving. It's loving someone and being able to see the gift of appreciating the gift in the presence. And so it helps me to be more present, more intentional with my actions and my attitude, my behavior. What am I choosing? I'm actually choosing, I want to try to live in heaven every day.
What was your word for 2024?
Expand.
Do you think 2024 lived up to the expectation?
Yes, I think I was hoping that when I said expand, it would be in my bank account financially. But I think it grew me. Like, so I do, because I was kind of reflecting back thinking, wow, did I expand? Did I live up to my word? Did I explore it enough? Did I do justice to it? And I was thinking, like, it's been a pretty bumpy year emotionally.
So I have to say this, that's why I kind of wrote this.
So what was yours?
I don't have my notebook. I don't remember.
You don't remember what your word was?
I don't.
Intentional?
No, it was presence.
Presence.
Because I was like, once you said intentional, I'm like, no, it was presence. I do think I was present a whole lot more in general. And I do think it allowed me to make different decisions because I'm like, the reason why I'm constantly not present is that I'm constantly doing things I don't want to do. So by April or May, I had to stop thinking about it consciously because I could be present because I wasn't dreading.
Yeah.
So so I'm going to use the word gamify. That's going to be my word for 2025 because I picked up a lot because I wasn't dreading things, because I had laid down two segments of my business.
Yep.
And kept the segment that I do like, the one that I really do. We'll read our notes in a second. Because I was able to do that, I could be present more.
Yeah.
Because normally I was doing things that I didn't like to do, and I was wishing the time away. I was, that was one thing I was doing. The other thing I was doing is dreading and having to be present and being present in that feeling of miserable. It's like, oh, I don't have to do this. Right. And that solved that. So
this is not
so
mine.
By April, I felt like the rest of the year was just that. And the reason why I was, when I wrote this, I was also reminding myself, everything that I say to anybody else is always more just for me.
Yes.
It feels like, my advice to someone else ends up being advice I need to hear.
I was trying to say that to Chris the other day. Like, he's like, are you talking to me? And I'm like, no.
I'm talking to me.
Sometimes it doesn't, like, I don't know how it sounds because it's all bouncing around in my head. And, like, I have the feeling of it. But hearing it out loud is like, yes, I'm going to pick that up. Or yes. But most of the time, I am talking to myself. And he's like, I know. Am I a part of He has gotten better because a lot of times he's like, am I a part of this conversation? I'm like, yes. I'm still trying to figure it out, but yes.
So Gail Kraft said, I believe
Hi,
this is
Gail.
on Facebook. Hi, Gail. For me, legacy is me affecting a heart so deeply that person is moved forever. And Gail, you do that.
Yes, you
Meeting
do.
you is a blessing.
Yes, you do. And that says it very well.
Yeah. I think when we say, oh, this year is bumpy or this is whatever, we have this expectation that it's going to be better over there.
Yes.
It's never better over
The
there.
grass is never
The
greener.
grass is never greener. And I do think about this when people don't stay in long-term relationships. I think part of that is it'll be better over there.
Yes.
And I remember this one girl I worked with, and she was engaged, and right before the engagement, she broke it off.
Right.
And then she was with another guy, and then she got engaged, and she broke that off. And I had said something to her, like, the grass is not always greener.
Right.
She goes, I think I'm in love with falling. Because I said, how can everyone be the guy?
Right.
How can you be engaged so many times?
Right.
And this wasn't just the two. This was the two I knew with her at work. She had like 5 diamond rings. And I had said everyone can't be the one.
Right.
There needs to be more discrimination. You're meant to find that not calling off a wedding. You're meant to know that every person you date isn't someone you get engaged to, and everyone someone you get, get engaged to.
Yes.
And it was because, yes, the grass was always greener, but she did the reverse thing of projecting what she wanted on someone, on the person she was with. So they were always the one. Because you never really looked at the person you were with.
Well, the thing is, you can go bounce and bounce to different relationships. You can end marriages, you can go and start a new relationship, and it is exciting. It's exciting because
falling in love is exciting. It's
because
that
you're
endorphin feeling.
both putting your best foot forward, and you can still do that in a long-term relationship. You can still rekindle that. It's just the fact that we don't want to put the effort in, or we don't want to put the energy in, because there's a familiar, you get comfortable and you get safe with somebody, but then you don't feel like you have to put your best foot forward because I do see you. But no, we actually get to choose our romance every day.
If you fall in love with the same person over and over again, pick another thing
To fall in love with.
that you love about them.
Or
Pick
spice
another
it up
thing
and
and
go on a date. Actually, you go on a date and you don't dress up like you do the same time that you're going on a first date. You can still go and do those things. Actually take the time to dance or do the things that made you feel pretty and made you feel loved or made you feel seen or made you feel special. Because my mom said to me a long time ago, you're just going to find the same relationship because you're bringing the same baggage with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the grass isn't always greener. Like if I don't do anything to change, I'm going to set up the same relationship. I might have a different feedback here and there because it's a different personality.
Or maybe you're picking the same person.
But if I'm going to be insecure and if I'm insecurely jealous of something, then I can take the person that I met the person that I married was not, I didn't have a reason to be insecure. But if I put that on them over a while, you wear them down and, resentments and angers and fights and come down. So the next thing you know, you're going to end that relationship because this is not working out and I can't trust them and blah, blah, blah. Again, it goes back to the conversation we had. What ownership are you taking into creating the situation that you're in?
Right, that you say that you don't want. How are you complicit in what you say you don't want?
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that, and the reason why I was bringing up next year's going to be different. Next year's going to be better.
Yeah.
Next year's always it's going to be the same thing.
No.
Life is the same thing.
Yes.
So we have to remember to celebrate our victories. The small ones, the big ones, but do more celebrating.
Yes.
And in our losses,
celebrating yourself.
Yeah, remember that you've done hard things before, you've gotten through hard things before, you've dusted yourself up, you've picked yourself back up, and you've been stronger for it. Sometimes you're like, whew.
Yes.
Whoa, I almost didn't make that one.
I tell you, one of the most empowering things that I did for myself was when we went home for a long weekend. I took the car and I drove. I put on my favorite music, my playlist now. I didn't go reminisce the oldies. And I rolled the windows down, and I remember being a teenager on these roads. I remember the turmoil. I remember, all the problem, the boys, the insecurities, the friends trying to fit in, trying to not fitting in, like all the confusion. I put my favorite music on, and I just thought about how far I've actually come. I looked at my life now, where I live, all the places that I've traveled, and I actually looked back and like, damn, girl.
And you have amazing people in your life.
You have done some stuff. You have done some cool stuff, and you've met some cool people. And so that wounded Robyn, or that hurt or scared or insecure Robyn, got me to this point. And so I felt like I was able to heal all of those old things and let go of like, hey, my parents were trying to do the best they can. We were living in a different age, a different understanding of things. Thank you for giving me that wisdom and knowing that I don't have to hold on to any of that stuff. I don't have to hold on to being whether like, I didn't like Kristen in the locker room, and I didn't like they're a blip on my radar, man. In all of those bad bumps or stressful things that we all go through as a younger self helped me be who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And I can look at myself in my rearview mirror and be like, yeah, I'm proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, so I think that was pivotal this year for me.
Yeah. And I do think if you're not proud of yourself, I do think it's hard to get through things. If you're always disappointed in your decisions, if you're always disappointed in your actions, if you're always disappointed in your choices, then you lead a disappointing life.
Right.
And the piece of it is the disappointment with yourself. We can be disappointed with other people, but you can pull those people in and out of your life whenever you want.
So,
we have to live with ourselves.
Yes.
We have to forgive ourselves. We have to make choices based on what's best for us, even when that's not for other people, because that's how we look that's how we can say at the end of the year, when you're going through your memories and all of that stuff, I'm proud of myself.
But a programming, even schools do it, that you should be better and do better and do better. And
not to interrupt you, but that's why I was trying to say to that hairdresser, I'm not broken.
Right.
I don't need to read books about fixing myself. I'm fine.
Right.
And I think there was always some part of me earlier that we talk about it on the show a lot, is that not good enough feeling. Right. What if you just felt good enough? What if you were just good enough?
But the only thing, the only person that can tell us that is ourselves.
Yes.
And that's what I've been trying to tell with my daughter. She loves school. She loves learning, and she wants to be rewarded for it. But in school, our only reward a lot of times is our grade. And so I was saying to her, going into, a 4-year college, into undergrad school, you learn a little bit differently, that grades aren't quite as important. You're not always going. And I said to her one day, she was always struggling. And I said to her, there's no way in this world that you can be great at everything. So maybe you're great in biology and chemistry, but maybe quantum physics is not the thing that don't expect an A. You're not meant to be good at everything. And it helped her break down like, hey, I just have to get through this. My grade is not my identity. And I had to teach her, like, that's just a metric, an indicator to say this is a strong area for you. This is a weakness for you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we're wrapping up our last show of the year. We want to let all of our beautiful listeners and the people who watch us online, our audience is more than good enough.
Yes, absolutely. We love you.
And we love that you join us every Thursday from 10 to noon. We look forward. We want you to have a happy new year.
Mm-hmm.
From Lisa and Robyn on the mic.
And we would love to hear what your new word is for the day.
Yeah, pick a word and let us know. Have a wonderful new year, and we will see you in